ruining my big night! I just wanted to bring down your grim facade and for once let you see the world as I see it. Giggling in a corner and bleeding. You can't beat me. I'm actually going to win. Ready for the next round?
Always.
What?
I'll never let you win. Never.
The Arkham trilogy surely needs no introduction. A legendary trilogy of video games developed by Rocksteady featuring the Batman and his iconic Rogues Gallery. These games have been talked about to death. I mean, so many people know and love them. It has a somewhat active fandom even after the last game was released nearly 10 years ago in 2015. Mind you, it's a fandom that has gone insane, but that's besides the point. I love these games. Big shock, you know. But I grew up on them, and I played the hell out of ArkhamAsylum back on my sister's old Xbox 360. And it blew my tiny little mind. See, I was a nerdy kid. Hell, I still am, except no longer a kid, and I'm just a sad, nerdy man. But I loved Batman, and ArkhamAsylum was perfect, pulling from so many different parts of the character's history to create a perfect love letter to his legacy. Recently, I thought I wanted to go back and replay the trilogy, and this is the first of 3 videos going over the games and comparing them to each other and trying to criticize them as much as possible. Fairly, of course. I mean, I still love the games. So without further ado, let's go back to where it all started. Episode 1. ArkhamAsylum. It's kind of hard to illustrate from a modern point of view the giant impact this game had. You see, superhero games were admittedly not that great. Most games were meant to be sloppy and cheap movie tie-in. You have the Iron Man game and the Hulk game for Wii. Spider-Man 2 is a classic that has been memed upon for how janky it really was. If you stumble too far down the rabbit hole, you might stumble upon the godforsaken Silver Surfer game, or even worse yet, Superman 64. Of course, there were certain highlights. I mean, look at Spider-Man Web of Shadows, which has made a bit of a resurgence since Spider-Man 2 came out, or Ultimate Alliance, a simple but all-around fun beat-em-up. Frankly, these games were few in a sea of mediocrity aiming to make a quick buck. But come 2009, the market for superheroes is becoming even more mainstream. From the Raimi Spider-Man movies to Iron Man's kickstarting the MCU, or Nolan directing the Dark Knight trilogy. Then ArkhamAsylum came out, and no joke, changed the comic video game scene forever. See, it wasn't a movie tie-in, and it was much bigger than previous superhero games. Clearly, it was a love letter to Batman fans everywhere. But more importantly, it served as a perfect gateway for casual fans to fall in love with these characters. Without ArkhamAsylum, it's likely we would not have the oversaturation of superhero games we have coming out recently. From the heavily Arkham-inspired Spidey games to the slew of upcoming games. I mean, Wolverine, Iron Man, Blade, and more are getting video games. So what was it that made ArkhamAsylum click in the main public and my 8-year-old brain? Well, let's see, piece by piece. Chapter 1. Adapting the Batman. The face of superheroes will always be Superman, right? Because he's not human, by definition, and has the most basic superpowers known to man. Strength, flight, laser vision, stuff like that. Batman is the opposite. He's just some rich guy that knows martial arts. So why is he perfect for a video game? Well, because by adapting somebody so human, they could rein back on how many abilities they give you and refine the gameplay and make it simple but perfected. They adapted each part of his character into a perfect video game adaptation. His stealth was adapted greatly into stealth sequences by limiting the nonsense he can do. They could focus on refining the set pieces and environments. Everything in a stealth sequence can be used to your advantage. Even gadgets that don't seem to work for takedowns can work. It's just a matter of timing and creativity. Whenever there's a stealth section, you're always tense because the game gave you Batman's power, money, with his weakness, bullets. If you get caught, it will hurt, so better not. Each takedown is satisfying, whether you climb out of a vent or get down and hang them to snatch them up to a gargoyle. It feels good to take people out because of that high risk, high reward. You know you knocked them out, but you know if anybody catches you, you're done. Second, fighting. Now, I won't sit here and pretend that the Arkham series has the deepest fighting system because that's bullshit, okay? It's very simple. You hit people, fly around from victim to victim, defying the laws of physics, and occasionally press the Y button to counter a blow. That's the basis of it, and quite frankly, they only throw 2 curveballs at you. A, knife thugs, just stun them with your cape, or B, stun rod thugs. Just do a sick flip over them and hit them. Like I said, simple as shit. Not that that's a bad thing. Let me be clear, it's a simple flow-based combat that is not difficult to get used to. However, it is satisfying as all hell, mainly because of the sound design. Each hit makes this loud thump sound effect. The final hit of any fight zooms in and goes in slow motion, and it feels great. Sometimes, however, it does cause some visual oddities. This, along with the combo number going up, is practically designed to set off my dopamine. And it does. I recommend for people wanting to play this game to go for the harder difficulty, exclusively because it removes a little warning when you have to counter an enemy. This just makes the fighting system a lot more engaging and forces you to scan the crowd and be vigilant of enemies' movements. Then again, the hard mode does have drawbacks, which I will get to later. The last aspect of Batman, crucial to the gameplay, is his gadget. Everyone knows Batman wouldn't be able to do the nonsense he does without the technology he has at his disposal, and such an integral part of his kit was crucial to adapt. Most of the gadgets in Arkham Asylum serve at least 2 of 3 purposes. First, hand-to-hand combat. Namely, the Batclaw and Batarangs can be used to extend combos and just build upon the simple flow combat that the game has. Second, stealth sequences. Kicking thugs off railings with a line launcher or exploding walls into them with the explosive gel are some examples that come to mind. Third, exploration. Now I want to focus on this part a bit more. See, the map of the game is Arkham Asylum, divided into north, east, west, and many different buildings. Naturally, the story requires you to traverse through all of these areas, many of which are blocked off until you get a certain item to open it up. In essence, what Arkham Asylum did was adapt the formula of the Metroidvania genre into a 3D space, much like Metroid Prime had done previously. For those not in the know, a Metroidvania is defined as, quote, platforming game that features a single large interconnected map, generally with discrete rooms or sections. Not all areas of this map are available at the start, often requiring the player to obtain an item, such as a weapon or a key, or a new character ability to remove some obstacle blocking the path. End quote. Take the first area of the game for example. You start an intensive treatment and slowly make your way out of the building. The game uses this time for you to get used to base Batman. After this, you leave the building and unlock the explosive gel from the Batmobile that opens up several areas of the map, namely the medical wing, which is where the story asks you to go next. This is the main purpose of many items, opening up the map for both story and collectibles. And it excels at this. Every upgrade an item feels like a major expansion to your kit and allows you to go back and explore old areas with new abilities, stuff that you know you're supposed to do something with but can't yet because you don't have that upgrade. Why would you go back to these areas? Riddler trophies. There's 240 Riddler trophies and riddles all over Arkham, and you have to find them. These serve as collectibles and, in essence, the only side quest in the game. Honestly, these are fun and simple. Most of them can be found around the map when you're just going around your business, rarely actually requiring you to backtrack because they were unable before.
I forgot to say this in the recording, but also, I went through my way normally throughout the game to see how much it really took me to go back and backtrack and collect all the Riddler trophies I missed. It only took me about an hour and a half, which is not a lot considering it's 240.
Furthermore, the riddles are awesome because most of them are really neat ways to reference many different parts of Batman's history and character, as well as making the player slow down and value the environments and all the detail that went into making these sets. They are awesome and so detailed, which is one of the greatest strengths of this game. The little things. From the aforementioned set design to character dialogues and references, stuff like the Batsuit getting more damage the more you go throughout the story, it really feels like Batman comics come to life, something the movies can't really do because of the change in medium. But in a video game, all the quirkiness and dark silliness of comics can be brought to life beautifully with so much loving detail. I mean, you have the power duo of Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill as Batman and Joker, so that's a winning strategy. Plus, look at these designs of these characters. How awesome is that? Such beautiful interpretations of these characters. Chapter 2. Adapting Arkham. What makes Batman so iconic? Well, a lot of things, but one of them is obviously his rogues gallery. I mean, naturally the Joker is a prime example, but because of the setting of Arkham Asylum, the game helped some lesser known villains shine, such as Victor Sass, Killer Croc, and some would say Scarecrow is also underappreciated. The game pulled from so many different parts of the canon to create the plot and characters. Naturally, the Joker takes center stage, but the game serves essentially like a tour. You know, like those rides at Disney, where you get on a slow-moving vehicle and see things like the E.T. or dinosaur ride, but instead of rewatching a movie basically, you see Bane, you see Scarecrow, Clayface, and so on. Such a lovely little masterpiece of Batman memorabilia. There was truly no better scenery imaginable as the Asylum. Not only was it a great excuse for all these characters to come together, but also added that dim and grim tone, that style that Batman is famous for. I mean, the first scene of Batman walking out of the building to the island is magnificent. Wanna know what else Batman is famous for? Chapter 3. The good story. In terms of Batman stories, particularly those that are first installments, they're plagued by one word: Wayne. It's always so focused on Thomas and Martha Wayne. And don't get me wrong, I get that that's Batman's whole origin story, but many Batman stories are so focused on the parents that it detracts from the actual story and character of Batman himself. In Arkham Asylum, you get 2 mentions of them during a Scarecrow sequence, and that's it. The rest is focused on the plot of Batman trying to contain the asylum and simple relationships such as Batman, Gordon, and Batman Joker. It's very back to basics, but it works for a first installment because you know these characters and you know who they are to each other. Now, yeah, it's a time for complaining. Chapter 4, The Bat Story. The story structure is, let's just say, it's weird. It's one of those stories where stuff just sort of happens, you know, as if the devs had a checklist they wanted to get through, like, show Gordon, good. Yeah, show them Scarecrow as well, that's lovely. Bane comes in, oh, yeah, you managed that, huh? That Bane one is the funniest thing in the world, by the way. You just walk into a storage shed and he's just there, hooked up. Like, yeah, it's an integral part of the story, but it comes out of nowhere. You just beat Harley Quinn, go to a storage shed, and he's there, what? Same with Poison Ivy, honestly. Like, at that point in the story, the entire plot is already way in motion. Everything's going down, but the writing thing went, you know what? We need one more boss fight. So make Harley free, Ivy. Talking about Ivy, I now want to talk about Chapter 5. The boss fights. They suck. Arkham Asylum is a weird mess when it comes to boss fights because it really only has 3, Bane, Poison Ivy, and Titan Joker. If you really want to reach and be pedantic about this, you can include the beta Titan Goon, but seeing as he essentially just functions as a shorter version of normal Titan Goons you face later on in the game, he only gets an honorable mention on this video. I think they clearly weren't too confident in these bosses, seeing as all of them send out waves of normal enemies to wear you down because the actual fights are pathetic. Let's go one by one on this, shall we? First off, Bane, the big Mexican venom monster. One of Batman's strongest foes, both physically and due to his intellect. He gets a horribly disrespectful boss fight in Arkham Asylum. Not only does he come out of nowhere, but his fight is literally just a slightly tougher version of the Titan Goons. He plays exactly the same as a normal enemy type you encounter later on. You wait for him to charge, you throw a batarang, you pummel. Rinse, repeat for like 6 different runs, and you win. Again, I would exclude him from the list if it was just a normal Venom Goon, but since it's Bane, since they decided to make it Bane, I'm ragging on this fight a little bit more. Next is Poison Ivy, arguably the best boss fight in the game, but definitely my least favorite. I hate this part of the game because it's not a tough fight at all, it's just tedious and annoying. This fight asks the player to dodge Ivy's attacks while spamming batarangs to wither her armor down and then use explosive hull on her 2 times. What's that? That doesn't sound too bad? Well, guess what? This process takes around 6 to 7 minutes, at least in the hardest difficulty, which is what I played for this video. It's a war of attrition, asking you to sit there spamming the left trigger until you get an opening. But that's not all the bullshit this fight pulls. You see, Ivy has this attack, right, where she summons enemies, much like Bane. But Ivy also has this shockwave attack where she sends out thorny vines. And if they so much as look at you a little bit funny, they will grab you and choke the living lights out of you. So, and you better not have the gall to enter any animations such as takedowns, because she will interrupt it to kill you. So to beat the goons, you have to punch, run away. Wait for him to get back up, punch, run away. Until by some miracle, by the hand of God, they decide to go down. In which case, you can go back to spamming batarangs. Furthermore, the timing on the force boss is off and weird, demanding the player to preemptively dodge an attack, because if you don't do it preemptively, you will not throw a batarang out in time after the dodge animation and you won't get the good damage on her, prolonging this ordeal even longer. And in harder difficulties, each blow knocks off so much health. You know what deals a lot of damage? Those force balls. But they're easy to dodge, right? Yes, except for the fact that it's an AoE attack. So if you so much as miss a millisecond in that dodge, they will do at least a little bit of damage. And that will rack up and force you to reset the boss fight. Unfun, god-awful boss fight. Die. Finally, a boss fight that lives in infamy, Titan Joker. Part of why it's so hated is the simple fact that it's just a juiced up version of Joker that beats you up and throws you around. Something many people just don't like for the character of Joker, and I understand that completely. Also hated is because this is the design they went for. This is the design. Good God, it's hideous, get it off my damn screen. I would argue he's even more pathetic than Bane. See, he comes down, takes like 2 swings in your general direction before his blood sugar drops a little bit too low, so he has to go and trash talk you while goons come at you. Then he turns around, you pull him down with the back claw and wail on him. That's it. It's so underwhelming for a final boss fight. Really, there's nothing more I can say here because that's just as deep as it gets. However, if you wanna get even more pedantic about it, and because I don't want to be so negative, I guess scarecrow sequences could arguably count as boss fights, and these are a bit cooler because mainly it's just you sneaking around a giant scarecrow until you reach a spotlight. It's simple, falls back on the stealth mechanic, often with simple but very clever puzzles focused on set design, and it works. Mainly though, they're just a delight because of the crazy visuals, especially that third one. It is so good. Sadly, Scarecrow also falls back on using normal henchmen at parts, but for the simple delight of the visuals, I can forgive that. In terms of unique sequences though, the best part is easily Killer Croc down in the sewers. I mean, it still puts me on edge after playing through it so many times. It's not too tough, it's just sneak through and batarang him when he pops up, but it's the context and the vibes that keep you on your toes. Plus, they make Clock look like this, so I think you can understand my fear.
Yeah, what I ended up doing, I didn't mean to do it, it was a complete accident. There's like one of those like death sequences that the games have.
Finally, Chapter 6. Repetition and Annoyance. You remember how I said the combat was fun, but shallow? Yeah, the game never goes out of its way to push you to your limits, more just mind-numbing in terms of combat. And this is just made worse by the constant reuse of normal enemies in boss fights, because it's just more monotonous, horrid repetition. Listen, once you fought a group of enemies, you fought them all, alright? Just because you had slightly different enemy types does not equal major change. There's this really fun part near the end where 20 goons welcome you to a party and you can choose to beat them up. It's really fun because it feels harsher than other fights, despite still being very simple, and it's sad the game never tries more stuff like this before it's over. Then there's these plant enemies. Now, there's nothing wrong with them game design wise, I just hate them because I suck and I never learned how to deal with them as a kid because I am stupid. Turns out all you gotta do is crouch and approach them. I used to run and tank the damage.
Approach with caution, oh yeah, it is just sneaking around and you're right, god damn it, I wasted so many years of my life with those motherfuckers.
Mind you, I have beaten this game over 7 times. Getting back on track, it's the little rough patches that make the experience a bit harsher to replay. From not being able to grapple in mid-air, corner covers, but not every corner can be a cover, annoying parkour physics that can and will enjoy dicking you over, as well as parkour segments made tedious for the sake of adding 2 minutes of gameplay. It gets annoying sometimes. Not for long, but it gets annoying enough for me to mention it. The point to all of this is, Arkham Asylum is a fantastic labor of love that still holds up as a lovely experience after nearly 14 years. In spite of all the annoyance and rough edges, it's a short and worthwhile experience both for hardcore Batman nerds and casual fans that know little to nothing about him. I would highly recommend for you to go back and play Arkham Asylum, or play for the first time if you've never played it. It's still such a lovely game, and honestly the entire trilogy is fantastic and I highly recommend it. However, the most important part of this game is that it proved that the nice people at Rocksteady clearly had ideas and skills, but they just needed to push it all a bit further. And they knew this too, which is why they added a super secret Easter egg that took over a year to find. See, if you go to the warden's office and plant 3 explosive charges repeatedly on the seemingly inconspicuous wall, you will find a secret room that contains certain blueprints for where the games take us next. So I will see you all in Arkham City. Have a good night, y'all.